Speed Africa Tour series here, and we're going to tap into Ghana. I looked a little bit at some of the Ghana stream, and it was a very awesome stream to watch some of the culture and history in Ghana. So it says here, the land now known as Ghana was called the Gold Coast by Europeans because of the extraordinary abundance of gold found there long before European contact. For centuries, gold nuggets, dust, and ornaments flowed from the region into North Africa, the Middle East, and eventually Europe through trans-Saharan trade networks. By the time Portuguese traders arrived in the late 1400s, gold was already deeply embedded in local economies, governance, and spiritual life. Europeans did not introduce gold wealth, they named the region after what they came to extract. The Gold Coast designation was not symbolic, it was literal. By the 16th century, the area produced an estimated one third of the world's gold supply, making it one of the most economically significant regions on Earth. Gold was used for currency, diplomacy, royal regalia, and religious ceremonies among the Akan peoples. European powers, Portugal, the Netherlands, Britain, Denmark, and Sweden, built forts along the coast not to settle the land, but to control access to gold already being mined and traded by Africans. This gold wealth also shaped global history. European currencies, royal treasuries, and later industrial expansion were fueled in part by gold extracted from this region. The name Gold Coast reflects an extractive gaze, what the land offered outsiders rather than how its people understood themselves. The Gold Coast. So, some really important history here in Ghana. So, let's look here at some of the history. Pre colonial Ghana and regional power. So it says here before European domination, the region now called Ghana was home to sophisticated Akan states and trade networks connecting gold fields to trans Saharan routes. Wealth moved through kingship systems, customary laws, and diplomacy rather than centralized empires. Gold held political and spiritual meaning, symbolizing authority and legitimacy. These systems were later exploited by Europeans, not created by them. European powers built fortified trading posts along Ghana's coast, militarizing trade through firearms, naval dominance. This distorted local power balances and incentivized warfare tied directly to European demand. Participation was shaped by coercion and survival under global pressure, while ships, capital, and markets remained firmly European controlled. The slave system persisted due to plantation economies, weakened international law, and racial ideologies used to justify exploitation. Violence became normalized, insured, and bureaucratized. While African involvement varied, the dominant drivers, finance, logistics, and ideology, were external and systemic. Under British rule as the Gold Coast, Ghana's economy was reorganized around raw material extraction. Infrastructure primarily served export routes, not local development. Indigenous political systems were weakened, creating post independence challenges inherited by the modern state. Ghana became the first sub Saharan African nation to gain independence in 1957 under Kwame Nkrumah. His vision linked political freedom to economic independence and Pan African unity. Though later overthrown, Nkrumah reshaped African political consciousness permanently. Ghana operates as a constitutional republic with an executive president, multi party parliament, and independent judiciary. Peaceful elections have made it a democratic benchmark in West Africa. This stability attracts investment and strengthens civil society engagement. Ghana blends tradition and innovation, welcoming the diaspora while expanding technology, finance, and creative industries. Its cultural exports influence global Black identity. IShowSpeed's visit underscores Ghana's role not just as a site of memory, but as an active participant in global culture. 10 products the world uses that come from Ghana often unnoticed: cocoa beans, gold, bauxite, manganese, timber, shea butter, palm oil, rubber, cashew nuts, and kente textiles. Key political facts about Ghana: the first sub Saharan African nation to gain independence in 1957. Kwame Nkrumah was a foundational Pan African leader, experienced coups between 1966 and 1981, returned to constitutional democracy in 1992, and has maintained peaceful transfers of power, strong press freedom relative to the region, and acts as a stabilizing diplomatic force in West Africa. So, why was Ghana called the Gold Coast? Right? The name Ghana does not originate from the coastal region itself. It comes from the ancient Ghana Empire, 300 1200 CE, located hundreds of miles northwest of modern Ghana. In present day southeastern Mauritania, and western Mali. The word Ghana means warrior king or military ruler in the Soninke language. When the modern nation gained independence in 1957, its first leader, Kwame Nkrumah, intentionally chose the name Ghana to symbolically connect the new state to Africa's pre colonial greatness. The name was a political and psychological act, rejecting the colonial label Gold Coast and reclaiming an African identity rooted in sovereignty, power, and history. In other words, Ghana named itself. The name was chosen by Africans for Africans as a declaration that the nation's story did not begin with Europe. Long before colonization, the region was home to advanced societies, particularly the Akan peoples. Akan states such as Bono, Dinchira, and later the Asante or Ashanti developed complex political systems, legal traditions, and economic networks. Gold was not merely wealth, it was sacred. The Ashanti Golden Stool, Sika Sikadwa Kofi, symbolized the soul of the nation. Kings ruled through councils, checks on power, and customary law, contradicting the myth that African societies lacked governance or structure. These civilizations engaged in long distance trade centuries before European arrival, exchanging gold, cola nuts, and textiles for salt, leather, and intellectual ideas. Oral historians, griots, preserved law, genealogy, and moral teaching, while spiritual systems emphasize balance between ancestors, the living, and the unborn. Archaeological and linguistic evidence shows continuous settlement in the region for over 2,000 years. Ironworking, agriculture, and urbanization predated European contact. Cities like Bago functioned as major commercial hubs connecting forest regions to Sahelian trade routes. The Akan matrilineal system, where lineage and inheritance passed through the mother, was one of the sophisticated kingship systems in the ancient world. This structure shaped leadership, succession, land ownership, and social responsibility in ways that still influence Ghanaian society today. European arrival disrupted, not advanced these systems, redirecting economies towards extraction and export rather than internal development. Europeans were drawn to the region for three primary reasons: gold abundance already being mined and traded, coastal access for ships without penetrating inland resistance, and existing trade networks they could militarize and dominate. The shift from gold trade to human trafficking occurred later as plantation economies in the Americas expanded. Importantly, gold extraction came before the transatlantic slave trade and remained central even during it. Seven important landmarks on Ghana. We have the Elmina Castle, and there's another pronunciation, Anomensa and Nomensa, the oldest European structure in sub-Saharan Africa, 1482, initially built for gold trade before becoming a major slave fortress. Cape Coast Castle, a central administrative hub for British colonial rule and one of the most significant sites in the transatlantic slave system. Independence Arch, symbol of Ghana's 1957 independence, bearing the inscription Freedom and Justice. Kumasi, the Manhia Palace, seat of the Ashanti King, preserving Akan governance, law, and ritual authority. Larabanga Mosque, one of West Africa's oldest mosques, reflecting centuries old Islamic scholarship and trade. Vili waterfalls, the highest waterfalls in West Africa, sacred to local communities and tied to ancestral beliefs. Nzulezo, Stilt Village, a unique water based settlement built entirely on stilts, demonstrating architectural ingenuity and ecological adaptation. Ghana was called the Gold Coast because the world wanted what it had. It is called Ghana because its people chose who they are. So, a little bit of important history there. Ghana has a lot of rich history and systems, agriculture, economic infrastructure, communities, legacy prior to European contact. Okay, contrary to popular belief, a lot of the slave system was predicated on this reality of not only the need of plantations, but these Africans were so uncivilized. We need to civilize them. In reality, civilization was thriving centuries before European arrival with very valuable natural resources here in Ghana. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys have a blessed day and God bless you. I appreciate the likes and subscribes. Have a blessed one. Peace.